Welcome to A Million and One Things.
Girls, get it together. You have a show to do.
Because it's cool to know stuff. Let's get started.
Welcome to our show, A Million and One Things, because it's cool to know stuff. We are sponsored by Quirky Minds Media, your full-service media production company. Visit us out at quirkymindsmedia.com for all the information how we can help you. My name is Temple Kinyon, and I'm here today with my super snazzy co-host, Cynthia DeBoer, and she's going to introduce one of our very special friends as our guest today.
Yes, I am, Temple, and thank you, and welcome to our listening audience. Today, our very special guest is Mr. Gary Matheny. And Gary, we know from his days as the author, and we're connected with him in another project, but we found out that this amazing man is a musician and a singer. And before we dive into that part of your life, why don't you give us a little background about you personally?
About me. Well, first off, I thank you ladies for having me on your show today. I'm not really a big storied life, but I started out around the age of 12 learning to play the guitar from a friend of mine, and we would get down in the basement of my parents' house and we'd play Beatles songs. We'd set these big amplifiers and electric guitars and microphones up, and we'd play guitars, and I know we just drove our parents crazy, but it was what we loved. And back then, everybody in the 60s was in a little garage band. We didn't call them garage bands then, they were rock and roll bands back then.
Yeah,
of course.
Everybody did. We was in them, and there was all kind of Celtics, Majestics, the Belvederes, the Gears, the Good Guy, all these weird names, and even we would dress alike, and that was the cool part. Everybody wore the same outfit. We called it a music uniform, but we would play everything from bar mitzvahs to parties to school dances to fraternity parties, anywhere we could make $1. And so I played music with a little group called the Good Guys. And then when we broke up, we went to a group called the Electric Hourglass. We were playing a little more of the psychedelic music, if you will.
Oh, wow.
You know, the Doors and Grand Funk Railroad and things like that. Well, I met this one little girl, and she wanted to date. I had to spend money, so I had to get a real job to support my movies and dinners and gas. So I had to give up my music and keep telling her that if it had not been for her, I could have been a rock star. And she smiles, and I don't know if she means it not really or what, but she smiles when I say that.
Maybe she thinks she saved you.
Well, there you go. That could have been the point. It could have saved me. But I went to work and I laid my music down. I still love music. You know, some of my best concerts are in the shower.
Oh, yes.
So I gave up music other than singing in the shower in the car by myself. Anyway, long story short, I retired 2011 and moved to Tennessee, and I started back writing again, started back playing my guitar again, and just there it goes from there. I started putting together songs. A friend of mine heard one of my lyrics and he said, "Can I put music to it?" Sure. And it came out to be pretty good, nothing professional. And he said, "I like the way you write." He's a retired musician. He said, "Let's do some stuff together." And so that's where it started back up at.
Oh, that's awesome.
That
That's
is
really
cool.
Yeah.
So I guess you never really lose the talent or the drive or passion.
No, I don't think you ever lose the drive and the passion. You know, I've envisioned myself on stage singing to thousands of people a lot of times. You never lose that. You always have that dream. Sometimes dreams come to reality and sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's for the best. But they say that when you retire, then you can start doing something you love. And one of the things I was told all my life was most people are too busy trying to make a living to make any money. And when you retire, then you don't have the responsibilities of having a real job, and you can work at making money at the things you love.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that, you're a lot more into it because you do have that time to put into it. I sit in front of my computer most all day, every day, sending songs out to different people, trying to get some interest in them or writing or whatever. But it's stuff I love.
And I think that's the big key, is because when you do love something, that definitely comes across. I know that Temple and I have even talked about it, that we don't write when we're in a crappy mood. We don't write when the world's falling apart around us, because you don't want that energy to go into your work. You know, it does show.
It's telling.
Yeah, it's very telling. And the same thing with songs. You know, yeah, the words are obviously vital because they're telling the story. But if they're said in a really down, depressed, you're going to get depressed when you listen to that song. I mean, anything that you put into it is going to come out of it. If it's a joking thing where, oh, well, she left me and blah, 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 and I'm okay with it, well, then you kind of laugh and you go, well, this is a fun one. And this is a really nice way to get over somebody. But if it's this really moody thing, you're, oh my gosh, this poor guy.
You got to have moody songs though, Sam.
Yeah, you do.
You got to have them because we all have to turn on some music and wallow.
In a
I
while.
like that wallow.
There's times in our life where we're like, I'm turning this on and I'm just going to let it go and get it out. And that music sometimes yanks it out of you.
It does.
Just you don't want to pack a bag and live there, but
You need a day to
you gotta
cry
have-
and listen to blues.
Yeah, sometimes you do.
I had a guy ask me one time, he says, what does your wife think about you writing songs about other women? I said, I don't write songs about other women. He says, well, your songs talk about these, that. And I said, I write as I feel. I said, if I have something on my mind, I write. I just wrote a song that we're working on with some friends of mine. They got a cool little group called Dirt Road Social Club.
Oh,
And
I love
they
that.
do a lot of Eagles songs and just Southern rock and things. A bunch of old guys like me, but I love the name Dirt Road Social Club.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so we're working on a song that I wrote called I'm Just a Fool. It's got a little bit more of a country flavor to it, which I'm not really a good country writer, but it talks about a guy who's sitting there at the bar pouring a drink of Jack saying, hey, look, she wouldn't take me back. That's a fact, And so it was just something that came up to me as I was playing guitar and some chords. It's like writing books or anything. I don't sit and just say, okay, I'm going to write a song today. No, I have to have something to make me feel like I need to write it. If I try to write, that's the reason why I could not be a writer in a company that wants me to be a staff writer, because you have to write something all the time. I want to write when I feel like writing.
Well, the same thing goes about books. I mean, if you're going to sit down and write a murder mystery, it doesn't mean you're going to go out and axe somebody to death or something. I mean, it's just, it's imagination.
On the job training. That's called on the job training.
Wow.
Jeez. Wow, we took a turn just for a second though. Well, I think it's hard to write on demand. I mean, I'm like you. I always shied away from those corporate or company copywriter positions. I always thought, oh, I could do that. But then I thought, what happens if I had an off day and I was at home wallowing to my blues music? I wouldn't be able to write. So, but yeah, under deadline is one thing, but to be forced to do it. And it just sounds like when the spirit moves you.
My friend Lee, who is with this Dirt Road Social Club, I'll send him a piece of music. I say, hey, man, I want you to listen to this. And he'll come back. He'll say, nah, put it aside and work on something else. So, things happen. You get good, you get bad, you get middle of the road things.
The more you do it, the better you get, I think, though, too.
But you got to be thick-skinned, too, like anything else. You got
gosh.
As long as somebody's not ripping your skin off, it's okay. Give me some criticism. Just don't tear my arm off.
Right.
Yeah.
Be constructive so I can learn from this.
Yeah,
So,
the kiss, kick, kiss method, as they call it. This is really great. This could be improved, but this is awesome. I mean, that's the only way, in my opinion, to give or get criticism, because if you're just going to slam someone, I mean, nobody wants to hear that.
I had a guy that was looking for a couple of country songs that I had written years ago, and they were just really, really, really raw demos. I mean, raw, just basically iPhone and record it. Well, they were looking for something, so I sent them to him, and he come back. He was a big record producer in Nashville. He said, man, those are bad.
oh, you were like, well, give me another shot. So you said,
Thanks for the encouragement.
So you get those, and then you get some. To give you an example, like your books, all of a sudden, one day something happens and somebody says, wow, and they take your book. I do a lot of Facebook marketing, putting my songs and videos on Facebook, and she kept coming back saying, I love that song. That's a great song, da, da, da. Well, she friended me on Facebook, and she is a big, big fan of Al Stewart, Time Passages, Year of the Cat. And she says, that song sounds so much like something Al would do. And so now she has asked if she could do the song in her cover over in Italy when she does it. And I'm thinking, wow. Yes.
Oh,
of
So,
course she can.
So absolutely.
that's
We're gonna
wonderful.
Bring it to you.
Yeah. What a compliment.
Her sending you a plane ticket, maybe, you can go there and perform
opening.
with her,
Some of the good Italian wine. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you could work this. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
She was very, very professional and polite about it. She said, I love the song. I would love to do it. So I have sent her the music and the lyrics, and she is going to be working on it. So I'm honored. It was
that's
would be.
exciting news. Keep us posted on that. Yeah. So Gary, what kind of music do you write now? What's your genre?
I grew up in the time when you had Seals and Croft, James Taylor, people like that were singing the good mellow songs. And I've always envisioned myself singing those. I do more adult contemporary. They're not really pop. They're not country. They're not Southern rock. They're just adult contemporary. I guess if you was to really liken it to something, it would be the Al Stewart type music, the James Taylor. It would be not easy listening, but softer pop, I guess you might call it.
I agree. We've heard some of your music and love it. You've described your music very well.
Yeah, the one that I really love was the in and out, out and in. And you say in that, well, the lyrics are go home, come back, do it again. And it's all about living in the fast lane and rushing around. And I think most people at one point or another in their lives can totally relate to that, because you're passing your partner in the driveway, or he's taking care of the kids during the day and you're working at night. And it's just the world we live in right now. And it's not like it used to be. You do need two people working, two incomes coming into the household, which in the days that I was growing up, that was not the case.
But that's the one she's going to be doing over in Italy.
No kidding.
Cool.
Oh, good.
That's the one. She liked it so much, and she says, I want to do it. So I said, yes, do it. Great.
It is a great song. It is such a good song. And I like the video with it too, right? Because I saw it on Facebook. And that's how she found you, was on your Facebook?
Yeah, when I did that song, there's a lady over in Ireland that a friend of mine I work with over there. He recorded 9 of my songs, and he had this lady who does videography. And so we sent the music to her, and she found the things for the video and put it together. And I do Facebook marketing. What I do is I will run an ad on Facebook using that video, and I will target certain audiences and certain age ranges, and it'll run for 4 or 5 days. And that particular video has over 30-something thousand views worldwide.
Wow.
So I've got a lot of attention on it.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is good. Is social media the best way for you to be able to promote yourself? Are there other ways that you can suggest for people who are maybe listening to get some tips?
Yeah, you can actually utilize social media, and it doesn't cost you a lot because you can adjust your daily fees and things. But social media gets you out farther, especially with the COVID last year and being stuck inside. It was the best way to get out because nobody was actually doing live performances. I would say somebody that wants to do it, just get hooked up with different subscription companies that might look at your music, have publishers, have singer-songwriters that are looking for new material, have bands that are looking for new. Not everybody's a songwriter. You might think that just because Grand Funk Railroad's playing this song that they wrote the song. No. Jim Croce did not write all of his music. And so that's the thing, dude. Just look on the internet, find subscriptions. Deal with a company called SongLink. It's an overseas company that is sending me newsletters all the time saying, hey, somebody needs this type of song. So it's a lot of work. It's not easy. I mean, anything worth having is worth working for. Is my motto. If you really want to do something, you got to work at it. You got to come up with a plan. You got to come up with some marketing ideas and try to determine how you want to present yourself to everyone else.
Yeah, I completely agree, because when I self-published my book, I could have done a little bit more work in that area prior to the book coming out.
Right.
Should have had a bigger game plan than I did. So that was a big lesson for me. So that's great advice.
I was wondering, you mentioned that there's a lot of bands out there, and obviously they buy songs from different people that have written the songs. And I had a friend who basically, he got took pretty bad because he didn't know how to protect his work. So what would someone do? I mean, I know with us, I mean, we've got our computers, they're time stamped and all of that kind of thing when we write. But what do you do to protect basically a song?
I go to copyright.gov, and you can copyright 10 songs at a time, one song of 10 songs, and they will immediately, once you close it out and make the payment, it's automatically copyrighted whether you've got the certificate or not. And then another way of doing it is, of course, the timestamp, but I don't trust the timestamp that much. There's many ways people can get around things like that, but also going through a licensing agency like ASCAP or BMI or someone like that, it licenses your music. And once you register with them and they know that it's good, then it's in their database. And that's how you get your royalties paid too. For instance, if you ladies was to play one of my songs and you were a station and you automatically have sent paperwork in saying that, we'll send in the songs that we're playing, you pay that company, then that company pays the royalties to BMI and BMI pays me.
Okay.
It's a snowball effect. So, that's pretty much once you get involved in it, it's licensed. But I would definitely recommend, it costs a little extra money, but go through copyright.gov because you got a piece of paper then.
Yeah, I was told that with my book too.
Yeah. Well, Amazon won't even accept them anymore without your copyright.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Learn something new every day because it's cool to know stuff.
That's right.
Do you feel like your songwriting helped you start writing books? or was it kind of separate and you didn't really put the two together necessarily?
Yeah, they were separate. I started writing books first. I started writing my first book in 2010, and my second one came out in 2015. I published it. The songwriting, I've always liked telling stories and making people laugh and things like that. And so I just decided that, I can do that on paper too. I can put my thoughts on paper. And the way the first song came about is a really comical story. It's called Ode to Atlanta Traffic. I worked in Atlanta for 30 something years and hated every minute of it because of the traffic. But I was going back through Atlanta to Hilton Head to play golf with one of my old co-workers. And as I was going through, the traffic was horrendous. And so I'm sitting there, and so I've got a piece of paper out. I always keep paper and a pen by me. And I'm writing this stuff about the traffic in Atlanta being so bad. And I wrote this poem and put it on Facebook. Well, sent it to my buddy Lee, and he says, hey, can I put music to that? And he made a real cool country ballad out of it. I don't think it'll ever sell, but when he got through, he's the one that wrote back. He said, hey, man, I really like that. If you ever decide to write something else, I like the way you write. I thought, well, hey, wait a minute, then I can write songs. As my grandmother would say, try your hand at it. So I tried my hand at it.
Yeah. Well, you don't know till you try. And if it's something you love doing, then it's worth the time to try it.
And I do. I've got notes everywhere. I'll start a song and I'll put it to the side. And then if I start writing another song, I'll say, wait a minute, I got some over here, some notes, and I'll take them and blend them together and make something. So it's a lot of fun. It really is.
Good. It's worth it to have fun doing what you're doing.
So obviously with COVID, nobody's been doing much as far as performing and stuff. And you said you had dreams about performing in front of thousands of people. But other than the little bar mitzvahs and the things like that you talked about, have you been able to perform at a little honky tonk or any kind of little show anywhere?
No, but they're beginning to open up. I've got a couple of friends that do podcasts like you, and they'll bring you in and they'll interview and maybe do a couple of songs and they'll put it out. One here in Cleveland just started a new podcast, and he contacted me and said, hey, let's get together, maybe do one of the songs you've written. I would love to. I think I mentioned to you ladies once before, kind of have a little stage fright since I haven't done it in so long. But I think once you probably get back out there and get over that first once or twice, I'm a ham. I can stand in front of anybody and carry on a conversation and make them laugh. But when you're sitting there playing the guitar and you make a bad note, you think, uh-oh, But I saw the movie with Elton John. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. And the very first time that they had him come on stage, he froze. He totally froze. And then when he started playing, the people started cheering, and it just gave him that boost, and he did not stop. It was like interstate highway down, all the way.
Yeah, you feed off of the audience's energy.
Yeah, and I think that is, but most audiences nowadays, they're not rude and crude like they used to be in some of these old country bars where the guys had to stay behind the screen and they're throwing beer bottles at them.
Throwing beer
Most of
bottles,
them today, if you do a good job, they'll clap and you go about your business. You may not get asked back, but they're not rude and crude to you. They don't throw eggs at you. So that's a good encouragement anyway.
There you go.
Oh,
you don't need to put the chicken wire up in front of you.
That's
right.
Exactly.
That's right.
That would be quite frightening. I think the other side of it too, though, is if they see the performer having a good time and enjoying what they're doing, that does make a difference with the audience.
It does. And that's why I like live performances, is that you can interact and see how that person plays the instrument or sings the song or interacts with the audience, whether it's you or someone else or just the audience as a whole. So I have a question. It's kind of in a backwards kind of way, since we were all sort of collectively in the world shut down for a year or longer. Do you feel that maybe helped you in a way, or do you think it inhibited you from doing what you wanted to do if things would have been wide open and we wouldn't have had to worry about a virus?
Kind of a loaded question, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think it helped. And I'm going to be honest and tell you why. I'm stuck here in my office with a computer in front of me, and I did several Facebook Lives during that time.
Yeah.
I'd do some cover songs, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Alan Greenbaum, and I would do a couple of my songs and just kind of talk about what's going on. And so did I do a good job? Not really, probably, because I wasn't used to doing Facebook Lives, but it gave me the opportunity to get out, and I would have people signing on and signing off and things. Of course, I had to tell you this. I've got a granddaughter, one of my twins. She's my biggest fan. She would be on there. Everybody that would comment, she says, hey, that's my grandpa. Hey, thanks for listening. That's my grandma. So she,
Oh,
but the thing is, I think it helped because it stuck me into a situation where everybody else was doing the same thing I was doing. They
yeah.
were all doing Facebook Lives. They were advertising their music. They were talking to people. And so, yeah, I think it did. Now it's time to open up. It's time to
Yes.
get things back right. And it's time to get people back out in front of folks because there's nothing that will inspire anyone any better than to being at a concert or live music and everybody
Yeah.
going, wow.
Yeah.
It's
It
really
makes
good.
a big difference. I actually thought maybe that was what you would say, but I wasn't sure. No one would know what their life was like without the pandemic, right? We can't go back and relive it and wonder what would have happened had we not closed down. But I'm glad you said that because maybe you made connections that you may not have made. But
Yes.
on the other hand, I'm sure you would have because I know your music is good. So it's good to hear something positive came out of COVID. And now let's
Yeah.
see you live.
Well,
Come to Vegas.
Merle Haggard wrote all his music in prison. He was in prison. And,
Right.
Him. So, sometimes you're capturing a situation where you can't go any further. It's in front of you. You make the most of it. So, yeah, you're exactly right. I think the more I listen to what you say and think about it, I think it probably did good. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
people got tired of me on Facebook, just like they do now, because I was constantly posting, hey, here's something else I wrote.
Yeah.
Look at this, look at that.
Yeah, I saw your post. I knew of you because of the 1 million books in 100 days that you're a part of with your books, which we could mention if you want to.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, here's Gary, and let's see what else he's got going on. And you were very effective. It wasn't too much. Like, where I was like, oh, it's Gary again. No, I didn't ever
Yeah.
feel that way. I was like, oh, Gary's out here. What's he doing?
Mhm.
And that's how I got kind of tied into your music. So that's a really slippery slope, I think, that you could have been out there too much or not enough.
Yeah.
But I think you handled it very well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Notice, well, and
Definitely.
people noticed you. And now you know, because the woman that wants to do your song, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to build up my Facebook friends just for that reason, because if you friend me, then you've got 500, 600, 700, 800 friends that's going to
Yep.
listen to what's going to just snowball. So the more friends I build, the more it's going to go. So
I will
yeah.
share you with everyone, Gary.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
there we
much.
go. There we go.
On every social media aspect I can. I will get you out there for the 4 people that see me because, Facebook algorithms or whatever.
Oh,
But
I
my
know.
gosh, I'll get you out there. My dad would love your music. I know he would. I'm going to share it with him next time I go visit. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your books too, just while we have you
Okay.
captured here on Zoom so that people know that that's the other way that we know you.
I've got 2 books that's actually published, and they were self-published, print on demand. The first one was called "If the Shoe Fits, Wear It: Life and Times of a Shoe Salesman." My brother and I decided I was 19, that we would come back home from North Carolina, where we were working in shoe stores, different shoe stores in management, to open our own store so we could be back home. And so we went out and borrowed the money and opened up 2 shoe stores. So at 19, I was a shoe magnet. I like to tell everybody I was a shoe salesman before Al Bundy made the profession famous.
There you go.
But we were sitting in the store one day, and a lady came in and tried on about 15 or 20 pairs of shoes and got up and said, well, I'll be back later. And my brother stood up and he says, and shoes laying all around. He says, one day we need to write a book about our experiences in the shoe business. And I said, well, what would we call it? And he said, if the shoe fits, wear it. So 33 years later, I'm on a cruise ship. My wife's taking a nap. I'm sitting at the tiki bar having a drink. And I thought, now's a good time. So I poured a napkin and a pen and started writing notes. And it took me 2 years to write notes and put together. The difficult thing about writing a book like that, we chronicled my days in the business along with him. But I talked about different tricks and things we pulled on customers and some of the people that work there, how hard it was to get in the business and going to North Carolina. But when you start reading about some of those things that you did in the past, it's almost sad because you're reliving those things again.
Yeah.
Some of them are great, some of them are not so great, but you're reliving them again. We had one little joke we put on everybody. Actually, we had several, but the manager one day sent me, I was new, and he said, go down to the mall, one of the Newberries, and he said, get the wall stretcher. And I said, okay. So I knew there was no such thing as a wall stretcher. Come on, I wasn't born the day before. So I went down to the snack bar and I sat and had me a cup of coffee and a hamburger or whatever. And about 35, 40 minutes later, I come back, I said, nobody's got one. They all said they can't find it. And he realized that I'd caught on to it.
Kind of like a snipe hunt.
Yeah, we just send people down for pastel dye.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, we shut the shoe store down and I had to go out and get a real job. But the bullet is a little unique. I was sitting watching a movie one Sunday afternoon about 2 Ukrainian guys running guns across the ocean. And I thought, wonder what it'd be like to trace a bullet from the time it's made to the time it's used. And so I wrote a book that took 4 guys and went through 4 generations and met 5 people. The bullet did. And as it meets the people, it becomes a part of their life. It's like I'm in your home and I'm seeing everything you're doing. And it goes from World War II to Korea to Vietnam. And then it goes into the streets of Miami into a Miami-Dade County sheriff's gun. And that's where the bullet ends. A sequel is being written now about it. And it takes the last character, Luis Sabato, who is the Cuban-American sheriff in Miami, and it takes him forward. But the exciting thing about this is over the last 8 weeks, I have had 5 movie producers contact me about the possibility, just, grabbing for stars here, of a movie or an entertainment type deal.
Oh my God.
One of them is very, very serious. I spoke with him a couple of days ago. They're wanting to do what they call a proof of concept, which is about a 15-minute movie trailer deal. And once they do that, then they will start putting it out, hoping to get some backing or some funds or somebody that's interested. But I do have another guy that I'm having lunch with next week that is also could be interested. So, again, it's grabbing for stars, but it keeps my adrenaline pumping to the point that I'm excited about doing something else.
That is exciting. We are definitely going to need to have an update on this.
Definitely.
Yes, we're rooting for you. And I have that book. I think I told you the last time we visited, I've got to get done with this one that I'm in the middle of. And it's really a good book. I just haven't had time to finish it, but you're next in the queue.
Yeah. And I'm buying it for my husband for Father's Day because, my husband's a shooter and he gets really involved. He's a big history buff on top of it. And what I liked when we talked before was that you said that a lot of the facts in there are facts. They're actually true history. And I know he's going to love that part of it too.
I try not to get too historical because, number one, when you start going into facts and you got to do all these footnotes and things like that, everything I got off the internet was public domain. So it was nothing to have to be chronicled. The facts are there. And I learned something about the Vietnam. I learned how back in Korea, they were planning the Vietnam War back before the Korean War actually ended. And I did not know that. And, Ho Chi Minh was actually kind of doing like Adolf Hitler did. He was already on the stump, pushing this communism thing and getting the people stirred up before it actually started. It was very interesting. And that was my era. That's where I grew up and had a lot of friends that went to Vietnam. So not only do you write, you can learn too as you go along.
Yeah, I did the same kind of thing. My book is a fiction book, but I wanted little snippets of actual history. And I wanted it directed at sort of the middle grade age so that maybe, just maybe, it would spark them to go out and do some research on their own and realize how easy it is to find out really cool, maybe not run-of-the-mill stories that are part of our history of our country or maybe a certain town or something like that. And so in the back of the book, I said all this information came off of these sites or the internet or whatever. But I have had actually kids come up and say, was that really real? And I'm like, look it up, look your history up and find out. And one of them did get back to me and said, I had no idea. Of course, he was 12. And I'm like, well, bless your heart. You weren't around during World War II or whatever it was, Civil War. But I love that you did that too.
Well, the other side of it was your buttons. Her book is called The Button Box.
Yeah, my buttons are like your bullet, kind of. Yeah, they have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Well, my book, a lot of folks think it's just war, and it's not. It's just it happened during that time.
During those times.
Yeah. They've got it on Amazon as a military fiction, which is not really. It's a story, but it just happens during that time, and during that time, it involves the war.
Okay.
So it's not like you're going to hear a bunch of fighting and things like that.
Yeah.
No, that's not what it is.
Okay. Well, so we can have our listeners go out to 1millionbooks100days.com for The Bullet and If the Shoe Fits, Wear It by Gary Matheny, right?
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, why don't you let us know where people can go out and learn all about you, maybe get your music or listen or anything you want to share?
Well, my website is GaryMatheny.net. GaryMatheny. And I'll be honest, that is mostly for my music.
Okay.
But I've got a Facebook page called The Bullet. You can go on my Facebook page, Gary Matheny Music, or just Gary Matheny. You'll see all the wacky, zany things I put on. I'll post videos sometimes of my music. I'll do songs, just all kind of stuff, just to keep myself in front of the population and the fans. And I would love to have as many people jump on and learn about me and friend me. And I think it's great because we can all converse back and forth. And that's how I met these people overseas. They would friend me. You know, it's amazing how years and years ago, you'd write a letter, it'd take 2 and 3 weeks to get somewhere. Now I can do a Instagram or a messenger or something or a Facebook post, and immediately somebody over in Italy or Czechoslovakia or Germany, they'll see it and, you know, respond back. And it's just fascinating to me that you can do that. You know, technology is wonderful when it works.
Yes, definitely when it works. Poor Gary.
But
Gary has been with us on several interviews, but hopefully this is the one that we'll actually get to play because our technology messed with us last time. But we just get to know you even better when we get to talk to you so much. So we really appreciate you being patient. I love spending time with you. Thank you so much. I'll let Cynthia just go ahead and give some more information to our listeners about our show, but we hope you'll come back and keep in touch with us.
Definitely. When you're going to your premiere of your movie.
Yeah, remember us little people, if you need people to go on the red carpet with you.
Exactly. I'm sure I can find a long dress somewhere.
I would find a long dress for you, Gary. Yes.
That's good. I appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're always welcome.
And as Temple just said, our show is 1,000,001 Things, and you can check us out at 1,000,001things.com. We do have a player there, and we do title our show so you can check out whatever you want to check out there. We also would like to do an email show where we talk to some of our listeners and get their ideas on what they want to hear and questions and maybe answers for us. And to do that, you all go to 1,000,001thingsshow@gmail.com, because as Temple and I always say, 1,000,001 things, because it's cool to know stuff. Bye for now.
Join us next time when we come up with something new.
After all, there's always 1,000,001 things to talk about.